And we're live, guys. Here we go. So, hello, Facebook. Here we are again for another live lunch. So this week we've got the fantastic Louise joining us from UK Recruiter. We basically invited Louise to come and join us, and we sort of said, oh yeah, we're just going to chill out, have a chat. There's no real plan. And I think Louise probably thought I was exaggerating that, but she's literally just discovered that what happens is you're given a link, you join a call, people are talking about pants or no pants, thongs or no thongs, and all of a sudden you're live. And it really is the case. There is no plan here. We're going to have a conversation. There'll be a few bits of value in there that we're hoping Louise is going to bring, because, you know, so someone's got to take the quality level up, haven't they? And yeah, basically, Louise, hopefully we're going to pick your brains a little bit about online events and marketing online events, the shifts and all that kind of stuff. But I babble a lot on this.
That's good. I can live with that. Cool.
So let's have you introduce yourself properly so people know who you are.
Cool. So Louise Triance from UK Recruiter. I've been doing stuff in this space for 20 odd years, some years odder than others. This is definitely the oddest year. So I started off not doing events, then we did networking events, and then we kind of made them more and more niche. And now I can't run any events in real life at the moment, and I think it's quite sad, but we're making the best of it, and we're doing something online next Wednesday with you guys from Green Umbrella.
Yeah. So your events are, you know, people that sort of work with us or follow us, they know we do a lot within the recruitment sector. And I think you know, your brand, it's kind of, you're the events people always want to go to because they're always really interactive, really engaging. So I think it's a bit scary at the minute what's going to happen on that side of things, because for us, those recruitment events are fantastic ways for us to be able to do our business development and that kind of thing. And I think that when I look at events as a whole, not just within the recruitment sector, but we're starting to see lots of technologies appear, which is fantastic. But we're also kind of, I think we've seen a lot of event organisers kind of just freeze and go, I can't do anything in real life, and almost become paralysed in their business. And they've just kind of drawn a line through things and go, yeah, we'll wait for next year. And essentially put their business on hold for 12 months. And I think that there's, whether it's sort of huge sort of expos, conferences, things like that, or whether it's things that are more kind of, you know, niche, where you're looking at, you know, a few hundred people attending, or if it's something like your local networking group, I think that it's really important people are taking the opportunity to do as much as they can. And the reason that we sort of thought we'd have you on is because I think actually, and I don't say this to, you know, be nice to people, but I do think you're one of very few that have actually pulled out all the stops and made sure that, you know, your event is still happening. I don't know how you're sleeping, because like all the stuff you're doing to make sure that people are still getting the same value out of those events, even though it's not in real life, is amazing. And I think it's there's probably been some considerations along the way that you could share with us that would be very useful.
I think that's the challenge, isn't it? Is that how do people get the same value from it? So as an attendee, there's 6 of us sitting here. If we were sitting around a table, we could be having pretty much the same conversation, apart from the fact that I'd be having a little chat with Amanda about what was, you know, what's on her plate, what's on my plate, or we'd be looking over there and chatting about somebody else in smaller breakouts. So I think that you can kind of get this 6 people round table interaction to a certain extent. If you're on a Zoom call where there's side chat, you can actually have a little bit of a chat with each other. So I think that those type of events organised pre the lockdown can still continue. So if I was an event organiser who did lunch round tables, I would have tried to continue with those in this type of format. Unleash with their 1,000 people event, more than 1,000 people, pull theirs. And I just think that for an event where part of the pleasure is, walking into this session, then walking into that session, then going up to a stand, that's really difficult to replicate. I don't know whether any of you have seen anything which comes anything close to an online expo that you've liked.
I think I pinged you a message. I've come across some software. It's called Hopin, and basically, so there's an SEO brand in the States, and they're quite big, and I get a lot of my information from them from an SEO perspective. And they ran a summit, and they had about 5,000 people on this online event. But that technology allowed you to create like breakout rooms or sort of seminar rooms, sorry. In terms of exhibitors, it was basically you went into the exhibition space and there were all these pre-recorded videos, but at certain points in the day, each person would go live. But the only thing on it that I thought actually was really, really cool in comparison with anything else I've seen is it also had this networking space where actually you clicked onto that tab in the event and it basically says, are you ready to network? And I wasn't brave enough to click the button, I'm not going to lie. But the idea...
That's not like you, Christina.
Who am I going to get landed with? But the idea being that you click the button, it would automatically pair you up with someone else in that space at the time. So it could be someone really, really relevant or someone really, really random. But I thought that was really good in terms of the way it worked out. And it's a shame I only came across it literally the last week or so but it's given me loads of ideas of things that we could be doing and stuff like that as well. But it's the only thing I've seen.
When you got paired up, sorry, was that like a chat then, or was that a video?
It's like a one-to-one video.
Oh, yeah, I'd be too scared to press that. The chat you can sort of hide behind the camera.
Like the breakout room, isn't it? It'll be just a different version of that where you go into sort of networking and then you go and get put into breakout rooms, and sometimes you're in breakout rooms with more than one other person, or sometimes it's just like one-to-one. I think they're really fun because you've got no idea, like, oh, who's going to be there?
Part of the challenge is that attendees in a real life event, you can almost physically move attendees. In an online event, you can't. You have to entice them, encourage them. And I guess that's what you slightly lose. The other side is, as an attendee, if you join as an attendee and it's not clear where you could be here or then or now, you can be stood there in this room on your own, having pressed that button, and there's this like nobody else has joined you, and you don't get that experience in a real event. The thing you've mentioned, we are using something similar to that for the tech event called Online Town, which is that networking space.
Hey, didn't we?
Yeah, we could play with that. So we're going to use that and see how that works, where basically you log in, you enable your camera, you enable your mic, and then you've got a little avatar and you move yourself closer to someone else. And as you get close to them, they can hear you. And if they walk away, it's because they don't want to hear you. So we're going to try that out.
I've been quite tempted.
It's
like, oh no, get away.
But it's like a so Louise posted, she was like, is anyone free to jump on? And and I jumped on. There's probably about 6 of us, weren't there? And it's like this room. It's like with your arrow keys, you're like running. It's like a computer game. So we all know I'm really, really crap at. So you had to go up these stairs, and I'm like going forward into the wall, forward.
Oh my god.
Oh, no.
But that was really cool because if you saw a cluster of people together, as you move closer to them, in real life, if you made a beeline for a group of people, as you got closer, you'd start to hear the conversation. And when you walk away, the conversation would fade out again. And it mimics that, doesn't it? And I think that was the really cool part of it. So if you start getting there and you're thinking, oh God, they're talking about that, you can, just sideswipe and disappear.
The thing is with that, I think it's quite obvious if you do avoid them. Like, whereas in real life, you can sort of hide or pretend to wave at somebody.
Emily's clearly a pro for that then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Have you never been like, you know, sidelined on Slack by her? So like you ring her and
Yeah.
just don't answer. So it's the same thing really.
Yeah.
I can hide behind the camera.
Yeah.
You just pretend you had a technical problem and that's why you couldn't see or hear anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what you can do in an online event. I mean, the other challenge I think for an online event organizer is that I'm sitting at my desk, I'm engaging with you now because there's 6 of us. It would be really obvious if I started responding to my emails. But when I'm not on camera and I'm just listening, so we do a daily working lunch. And I only have to host it once a week now. So the other 4 days other people are doing it. Now, yesterday's was really interesting and I was really, really enjoying it. But I was answering emails at the same time. So I think that that's what we're all doing, isn't it? Is that we're getting used to multitasking more. And if I was an event organizer, that would be a concern for me, is how do I keep that engagement high? But it is exhausting to be on camera all day. It's much more exhausting to be on camera for 6 hours than to be in an event for 6 hours. What's the answer to that?
Don't know, but I would wholeheartedly agree with you. When you've done a day of or a week of webinars, or client reviews, or just, you know, live lunch and checking in, as much as it's great to see everybody, you're right, it is absolutely exhausting. And you kind of think, well, why is it so different to being in person?
I feel like you're more conscious when you're on camera. I don't know, but I feel like I personally, you're trying to be more engaging than maybe you would be constantly. Do you see what I mean? When you're in a conversation in person, you can engage with that person sort of on and off, but if there's a group of people, you don't, like, you also can't see yourself back. So now I constantly can see my reaction to what everyone's saying, and then I don't know if you guys do this, but I'm always overthinking it, thinking, oh no, did they think I'm bored? I'm not bored. How can I show them I'm not bored?
I must admit, I keep an eye on the Facebook comments, so I must say hello to our regular stalker, Paul Green from the local networking group, BizCom. Yeah, sorry. Terrible. Apologies, Paul, forgot the name of it. He said there's never been a better time to network than now. Karen Hayward's joined us as well. She's just popped on. So
Karen, you need to register for Louise's event next week. Definitely. Really relevant to you.
So you're right, we're kind of multitasking, but equally conscious that you don't want to look like you're not paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So I suppose there's, I suppose there's different types of event that people can run, but I wonder, would anyone actually think of starting up events right now, or is it just people who already had events who feel the need to bring them online? I mean, are you talking to clients who are thinking, I must get into this event space?
No. I think there's probably people a bit like me who, so Amanda knows I've got this idea for an event that I've had for a long time in the back of my head, and when I'm seeing all this technology appearing and, you know, the cost of running an event now, so yes, it's harder in a lot of ways, but actually those venue costs have suddenly really, you know, it suddenly almost becomes a bit more of a profitable thing to do for someone like us when you're just looking at doing a one-off event. But it's like, I'm probably more excited right now to be with the idea of partnering with someone to create something than I would have been if we weren't in this situation. It just suddenly feels, and maybe that's because of the world that I'm in, where you know, you run a lot of your stuff through Crowdcast, Louise, and so I'm comfortable using Crowdcast, and, you know, I've been on stuff with you, I've been on stuff with Recruiting Brain Food, so it all kind of feels accessible to me, and I realise that's probably not the case for everyone. But even if you look at things like Zoom, because we're all using it in, you know, the way that we are right now, I think that it's almost like, you know, we're already seeing it just like webinars. There are so many webinars at the minute, and which in itself is an event. And actually, you know, I think as people get more comfortable with that, they are going to look, okay, what's the next step up? What's the next thing I can be doing?
So I think the thing I've seen has been people, as soon as we went into lockdown, in the first 2 weeks, everyone panicked. After that, people thought, how can I translate what I'm doing online? And I'll do more LinkedIn Live. So I saw a ton more videos, which were great. I really like that because they're often very short and you can take them or leave them. Certainly saw a lot more videos and webinars going out, but also things like these pub quizzes and these virtual pubs. My personal experience has been they have no longevity. They're quite hard to do. The working lunch type things where you have different guests on are better. So, you know, we're mental doing one a day, which is why we've got different hosts on now, because it is too much. But yeah, regular things at a regular time with a business focus and a bit of social, I think are working well. Pub quizzes and after work drinks, I've seen those really drop off. I think that most of us haven't got time for that in our lives.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I did try and hop onto that quite a lot in the very beginning, and now I'm just like, oh, you know, I can't do something like that every night after you've been on a ton of Zoom calls throughout the working day. For me, sometimes I get to the point where I'm just like, actually, do you know what? I just need to switch off from a screen. I mean, I just like go downstairs and like all my devices go away and I just sit and kind of like just do nothing really and sit and drink a cup of tea just to get my eyes back to normal. I'm the same. I can't do all the quizzes and the pub things.
It becomes there's no clear line between when work stops and when family time or non-work time starts, because you're on the same computer probably.
Yeah.
And then you might take your laptop back downstairs. So, and before you know it, it's 10 o'clock at night, or well, sometimes for your networking drinks, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, Christina.
I was on a Zoom call for my sister.
My mother might see this. I was staying very quiet in there. So Paul, our resident stalker, there is the isolation in on a Friday night that we've been partaking in, and there's been a couple of weeks where it has been early hours. Now, I don't even know what, God knows what we talk about, but I think it is, for me, there is that difference between being on screen and presenting. You know, it's like being on stage thing, and actually that pub scenario on the Friday night, it doesn't feel like business. I'm kind of, not only am I in my living room, I've kind of like my feet are literally up on the sofa, or, you know, there's like my daughter gets involved in the conversation and stuff, and business stuff does come up, but it's kind of, it's not a formal networking environment. The tone of the conversation is completely different. And I don't feel like I have to fill in all the gaps. I feel like I have to lead anything in that conversation. So it's like the opposite end of the scale for me from an event perspective. So
I think it sort of depends how often they are, like Pam was saying. I think if it's something that you were doing sort of every evening, every other evening, I can imagine that, yeah, you might just want that bit of time just to switch off from everything. But actually, if it's something that's once every week, once every couple of weeks, something like that. Like I know we do our Green Umbrella one, I don't know, once a month, maybe, something like that. For me, that's something that I look forward to. And I think, oh, that's going to be fun. Like it's a nice social chat that isn't just completely centered around talking about work things, and you get to have a drink and we have a laugh and things. But I think if you were doing that every night, like Pam said, I can imagine it would get a bit much. Maybe.
And you could, there's that many events.
There is, yeah.
So you could do, you know, a sort of working lunch followed by, you know, a webinar followed by pub quiz or drinks or something like that, and you could almost do that every day. So I mean, Louise, if someone was starting out and wanted to move, so maybe they've done events in person before and they want to move them online, how would you suggest they could try and stand out? Because if we are a little bit overloaded at the moment, you've got lots of experience in putting events on. Is it kind of a don't bother, or
No, I don't think it's a don't bother. I think that it's almost very similar to running in real life events, which is that you've got to have the real pull for the attendees. So, you know, if we do these Inspire recruitment events, and they work best when you've got great speakers. They work best when the time and location works for people. So the time is the time, obviously, the location is the technology. Getting somebody who appeals best to your audience. I think that's almost the biggest challenge, is that what I have seen more and more, and I'm perpetrating it by being here, is the same voices and faces on events time and time again. So, you know, we know Hung Lee, he's brilliant. I was talking to him about this. I did a show with him about using video, and he said, who do you want on with you? I said, I don't want the same people we always have on. But unfortunately, the same people we always have on are the ones who get the audience there. So that's going to be one of your biggest challenges, is that if you're running a webinar, say you're so just an average recruiter or a boring factoring company or whatever it is that you are, or you make sofa beds, no one's interested in hearing what you've got to say. So you've got to get an interesting topic and an interesting guest. So the natural thing to do is to think about who is the most prolific speaker in your space, or the most well-known speaker in your space. But then you're just doing the same as somebody else. And that's the real problem, I think, is that if you want to stand out, but you also want to be super appealing, don't have an easy answer to that. I think it's a real challenge.
Just to pick up on that point, because there, you know, it is, you see the same names again and again and again within any sector, I think. Last week we touched on was it male, stale and pale, as Amanda refers to them. You know, that kind of sort of lineup that lacks diversity. Do you think that that's become even harder now in terms of trying to get panels together or speaker lineups for online events? Is that
well, not for you. Look, there's 5 of us. Mark, I'm not sure you've actually managed to get a word in edgeways yet, have you?
It's pretty much the same as if we were in the office, to be honest, Louise. It's just my life.
You know, Mark, you're the token man on this, because we're not letting you speak.
Yeah.
So there you are. Feel proud about that.
Yeah.
Do I think it's more difficult to get women? Yeah, I mean, I if I'm really honest, I could ask 20 men to speak at an event and 20 women. This is an in real life event. And I bet 18 of the men say yes and 8 of the women, something like that normally, for a variety of reasons. And it's quite complex, some of those reasons. An online event, you might think you'd get 50-50 between men and women, but I don't think you do. I mean, there's been some research about the amount of women who've got children in the house, and both parties work, the amount of responsibility both parties take for that, and the impact that has on your job. Women who still don't want to say yes to a gig unless they feel they're certain they can do an amazing job. They're still more likely to say no, whereas a man is more likely overall to go, yeah, I'll be fine. So I guess that still exists. And I think that I do still see it. When I put something out there saying who wants to be a guest on Working Lunch, I bet if I put something out there now saying we've got 10 slots in July, who wants to talk, I suspect I'd get many more men say yes, me, than women. And you just got to work hard as an event organizer to get some sort of representation. Tricky, isn't it?
Really tricky. So one of the things that I actually need some advice on from you, some guidance on.
Oh no.
Is Emily, I'm being sensible and serious.
Sorry.
So I'm used to being interviewed. You know, you've interviewed me several times over the years. But actually, there's some of the stuff that we're doing now, and actually these live lunches are turning into a scenario where we're going to try and get a guest on every other week. When we started this, the idea was that it was actually taking us all out of our comfort zone. It was Emily, I don't think had ever been on a video on our Facebook page ever, and the idea of doing this just freaked her out, whereas now she's like, she arrives and she's all like, you know, dolled up and ready to go. So it was it was an exercise in how do we keep in touch with the people that normally would be calling into the office and seeing us and the dynamic as a team. It was about us having a meeting point once a week as well that you know, made us all have to make a little bit of effort, as you know, from a mindset perspective. And it's kind of 12, 13 weeks on, whatever it is, it's developed into something that is starting to get some structure, although I think I will always fight against that structure. But now we're thinking, like, every 2 weeks we want to have a guest on, but that means interviewing a guest. What questions am I going to ask? What are the best questions? You know, it's kind of like, for me, that whole piece, how do you interview someone without it being really stuck? Because you've got this kind of ability to make the people you interview really, really comfortable. And then actually, when you watch that video, it's like a really natural kind of conversation that's happened. So yeah, teach me. I'm making notes.
I don't think you're doing too bad, to be honest. I think you're doing great.
Because I've got this lot though. I think if it's you and me, I'd be going.
Yeah, so I think that there's two ways of doing it. If you ask Stephen O'Donnell, who I run a ton of events with, you would get an entirely different answer. So he is the nosiest person I know, and it works brilliantly as an interview. So he will ask you questions just because they pop into his head. He asks some really, really weird, random stuff. I guess that there's two ways of thinking about this. Is sometimes when you're interviewing somebody, it's really important that the other person gets something out of it and comes away feeling amazing. Sometimes when you're interviewing somebody, it's for your audience. Most of the time it's a mix. But I think that's the first question you need to ask yourself is, who are you trying to make feel the best here? Because if it is the person you're interviewing, then you need to know what they prefer. Do they want to know the questions up front? Do they want anybody else on with them? So if you have a 30-minute show and there's 5 of you and 1 person and you're all bombarding them with questions, they might not like that. Or they might love the idea of being on a panel, being quizzed left, right, and centre. I think the other thing is, which is a tip for life in general, is when you're talking to somebody else and they're the focus, let them speak more than you, which is what you're doing. It's great. I know someone who interviews a lot of people and their questions take longer than the answer, and that's not cool. So that would be probably my number 1 tip, is make sure you consider your question and try to keep it brief.
So when you said Richard Madeley sprang to mind when you said that. He's just the worst, because he'll ask a question then turn it around to make it about him.
Well, that's the other point, isn't it? Is that in this format, we want to hear everybody's opinion. But when you're interviewing one person, no one wants to know what I think about CRMs. That's not the purpose of me doing it. Richard Madeley is a brilliant example of somebody who loves himself too much to be an interviewer. Because this is your forum to just chat about yourselves. But when you're interviewing someone, the other thing I would say is that if I was hosting this and I was the boss and you were my guest, Christina, I probably would be doing this. So Mark, have you got any questions for Christina?
Me? No.
And then what I'd do is I'd hit that little button above Mark's head, which ejected him from the screen. I suppose I'd bring in the rest of the team, I think. I know that's not the purpose of this, but, if you've got 3 people on, spread it out a bit, I think works quite well. I like the way that you do this. I think this actually works great. I don't know whether you need to interview any more than this, or just get guests on and ask them questions in this format.
So I think, Christina, that, I don't know what you think, but the way that it sort of works, how we do it at the moment, it's a bit more casual, which I think works quite well for us as a team and also for our brand as well.
It's more natural.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's more natural. It's more kind of, I think I 100% agree with what Louise was saying about saying, oh, like asking Mark if he has any questions, but I know he was going to say no. But then what are you going to do? You can't reject him. I wish you could. So
Hey,
yeah, I don't
come
know.
up again on the hashtag Mark's life matters.
Sorry, Mark, stay.
Thanks, Paul.
Oh,
I've got your back.
Cool. Okay, so Louise, we've sort of referenced the event next week a little bit already. I'm really excited about it. It's always a good event for us. So, but yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about what it is and how it works? And
yeah, I mean, I think the closer we get, actually, the sadder I feel that I'm not going to see everybody. Because I will see, and I was talking to Stephen O'Donnell earlier, because he's helping me with this, and he said, well, when you're on screen, make sure you know, blah, blah. And I said, I'm only appearing on screen on that day for literally 1 minute when I introduce it. So normally at my event, I'm visible, I'm ringing that bell, I'm walking around, I'm chatting to people. So this is really a series now of some live apparel presenting on behalf of my exhibitors. So Christina, that's you, and some webinars. So it's a kind of day, as an attendee interested in tech, you'll sign up to the opening keynote, which is where all the vendors have to do a 2-minute pitch live. We're bringing them on and off screen, and it's going out live on LinkedIn. So if I was an attendee looking at tech, I'd love that to see, here's some companies in the UK space that I might want to engage with. And then I would, as an attendee, have an entire day full with fab webinars. So there's an opportunity to watch a webinar from 10 o'clock every 20 minutes through to about 3:10. Dip into them, dip out of them, watch the recordings later. And they're all hosted by people who understand the space, understand recruitment, understand technology. They're interactive. You don't have to appear on screen if you're watching, but you can type your questions in the sidebar. What's slightly strange is that we've got a lot more people signed up than normal. I mean, that's not the strange bit. So we've got a lot more people signed up than normal. What's strange is that you know, I don't have to worry about there being too many. What I've now got to do is to make it easy for them all to engage and to join in, because otherwise all I've created is a list that I'll send to you afterwards, and you can send them all an email. That's not really what we're trying to achieve. I think that comes back to the challenges of being an event organizer, is that you can get people to sign up, but then you've got to find a way that they actually want to spend that time, that hour, that day, whatever it might be. And that's really what I've been working towards. Is the one side is the tech, how it's going to physically work. The second side is attracting people in to sign up. And then the third bit is getting that engagement piece right for the day. So it's on my website, 17th of June. But everyone on LinkedIn knows, because I have not shut up about it.
We'll make sure we put a link on the Facebook page as well, so people can sign up.
I was going to say there's an advantage as well, in the sense that I've never been able to attend any of your events because
she's not
there's never going to be enough people left in the office. So I've never been invited either. No, seriously. What I mean is I've never been able to go to one because there's not enough staff. But when it's something like this online, I can go because there is enough people.
Yeah.
So, you know, I get the chance to see something that I wouldn't normally be able to get to see.
Definitely a bonus.
Well, almost from an accessibility perspective, that's an advantage, but there are accessibility issues with tech as well. So for example, with the live webinar stream, I use Crowdcast. I'm working for them now, but they don't have the closed captions. I've seen events which are amazing where they have a sign language person in one of the boxes doing the sign language while the event's going on. And I think that if we ended up in a situation whereby we were doing more and more events online, we'd all have to think about accessibility more, having the captions, having the sign language, having different ways for people to interact. And it's highlighted to me that whilst it means people who are remote can come to the event.
Mm.
For some of those other disability issues, the online event space is not perfect.
Mm. Yeah. What mistakes do you think people make when they're starting out with this? So, I mean, I can imagine some of that accessibility needs to be kept in consideration, but I guess there's some more basic errors that people make when they are starting out moving their events online as well.
I guess that I would imagine the biggest one is not considering how much time it takes. It's so interesting that you said, Christina, about the fact that it saves money not having to have a physical event venue, because whilst that's true, I can't tell you how many extra hours I've spent on this. So I think that's, for me, one of the lessons is do not underestimate how much effort you'd have to put into this. So I guess mistakes people make is not putting themselves in the attendees' shoes. I went to an event early on. It's just like I was saying a minute ago, I went to an event early on where I went to the page for sign up because that's where I'd signed up to on the day. I had no other emails telling me where to go. And it's a bit like, you know, you get off the train at Paddington with the and you have no idea where to physically go for that event. It was like that. I went to another one where I went to the first session and then I couldn't visualize what else was going on. So putting yourself in your attendees' shoes, I think, is really important. And the thing I'm most obsessed with is the run-throughs and the prep and stuff like that. So even though Christina and I and you, Amanda, have done so many crowdcasts before, I'm still encouraging everyone to come on Friday and do an online test, to do a run-through, to see whether you can share your screen. You know, when you're in the thick of it, the last thing you want is for someone who's paying you money to say, I don't know where I am, I don't know what I should be doing. So I think that they're the things, the mistakes I see. But you'll have to get me on after next Wednesday and I'll tell you all the other ones I made.
Yeah, you're a seasoned pro, you'll be fine.
You know, I think that if you're invested in these events, either as an attendee or you know, as an exhibitor, as a stakeholder, it's actually, there's as much responsibility on you to do those tech checks as there are the event organizer. So, you know, it's silly things like I was on a call with someone for something else and we'd done a tech check and then it came to the real thing. They were, you know, in a different building, on a different machine, and it's like, that was the point of doing the tech check. You know, it's kind of like, it's actually, does it work on this device with this internet connection? It is, you know, and I think people almost kind of, it's like, so Mark's in a band, I guess it's the equivalent of going to a pub and doing a sound check, but actually the gig is in a completely different town in a hotel somewhere, you know, and people are going, oh, it worked the other day.
Even with a sound check, that isn't always infallible.
It's true, isn't it, actually, Mark? It is exactly that, is that when you perform, you do everything you can to make sure it works. Don't you?
Yeah. I mean, that's
Mark's like,
yeah. Oh, well, you know, you've never seen our band, Louise, so you know. No, I mean it is, but there's always, you know, things that you can't think of sometimes on the night or the day, whatever it is. You know, things happen. We've had, you know, random things over the years that you cannot, you know, say, well, if that happens, that happens. You know, we've had someone take out fire alarms that cuts all the power and things like that, you know. So you're standing there and you can't do anything and they can't reset the fire alarm, so the gig's over. So, you know, that's that sort of thing. But yeah, you can prepare everything else. You can say, well, yeah, all my gear's working, but then you could turn it to a gig, fuse goes, something goes, and yeah, it's gone.
God, Mark, you're not very cheerful.
Well, you know, that's only like 1% of the time.
He's just keeping it real.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. So, but on that note, my computer every so often, for absolutely no reason, freezes and closes down. So next Wednesday, I'll have my computer. I'm going to have the laptop. I'm going to have it on my phone, and I'm going to pinch my 16-year-old's laptop, because me going, oh yeah, maybe every so often my computer just crashes. That's not okay. And I think that's the sort of thing you have to prepare. I have to do that as the organizer, but I expect you to do that if you really wanted to work as the speaker. I mean, attendees, they have a power cut, they're screwed. They're not going to go and sit in their car charging their phone watching it. They'll watch it on catch up. But for those presenting, you need to have everything possible that you can achieve in place.
It's the same as when you do your slides and things, isn't it? Normally you'd work online, but you've got to have offline copies and things like that to do that sort of thing. So yeah, you've got to have contingencies where you can.
Yeah. I mean, and actually on that note, it's as simple as me printing out the schedule for the day as well as having it on my computer, because then if something does happen and I have to physically move somewhere else, I've got it all with me. And I'll be locking my office door so that children don't keep coming in. Can't help that. People love kids in the background, don't they?
Yeah, it's fine.
I think
I don't know if
genuinely, they are more sympathetic to it now. Because before, if you were working from home, I don't know, say last year sometime, and you know your kids popped in or the dog barked, people were a bit like, come on. Whereas now we're all kind of up against the same
or
thing.
your husband said he wanted the office.
Oh, gosh. He's out all day today, we're fine. He's not popping in. He's normally a guest appearance, Louise. Every sort of so often he pops in and starts chatting.
Away in the background.
Yeah. Nice and quiet.
That's like hammering at the kitchen. I was going to say, I think that, well, I don't know, but maybe the reason for that, Amanda, is the fact that all of us have experience working from home now. So whereas before, I did have that experience from working from home, but it wasn't constantly. So whilst I'm really not, I wouldn't really care, to be honest, if a child walked in the background, it wouldn't bother me. But some people might not quite understand that if they haven't worked from home before. Whereas now they're like, oh yeah, that happened to me. I can't really be annoyed.
My children are the other way around. If they walk in and then they go, oh my God, we're on screen. They're like, they want to dash out. It's them that don't want to be on the screen, not the other way around. But they normally listen outside and be like, oh, mum's on a call. Let's just go.
so it's almost like a sideline point now. I think that Pam's youngest daughter and mine are both sort of 14. So you've got teenage kids as well. Do you think working at, I mean, I guess you worked at home pretty much full time anyway, so they've probably sort of got this anyway, but I don't know. I think the fact that they're hearing us in work mode more, it's like a bit more of an understanding of the business world. I think that's quite interesting in itself in terms of the kind of, we probably have a lot of conversations at home anyway relating to business things, and Paul who watches this, he's had conversations with Bella, my 14-year-old, and talking about meaningful, what's the answer to life, the universe, and everything type conversations. But it is kind of like where we're getting this sort of merging of worlds. I think actually where that merge is, in a lot of cases, is really healthy. And I'm really interested to see what happens in the next kind of like 10 years in terms of, are we going to see more kids like going through education, leaving school and going in down that entrepreneurial route? Because actually they've had this time right now. More than ever, they've seen there's another way. You don't need to go university, get qualified, get that grad job and go on from there. It's like that. It's just opened up this whole kind of other scenario, I think, potentially.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Or they find the whole concept of work full stop quite depressing. My children never realised how boring my job was. I mean, I don't find it boring. They find it boring. I'm at my desk, because I'm doing this extra side gig for Crowdcast. I'm at my desk from 6:30 in the morning till 5:30 at night at the moment, every day. mean, they're not going to want to get a job at all, are they?
Yeah, welcome to the real world, kids.
I mean, there's probably more incentive for them to go to university and then do a master's and then try and get some qualification which involves not going to work, rather than thinking, you know, because I have worked for myself for 20 years. So this is what I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur, don't get me wrong, but this is what they see of someone who works for themselves. And normally what they see is in half term, I'm able to do stuff with them. And in the summer holidays, I'm able to do stuff with them. And now they're seeing the reality. This is what my life looks like. It's probably not so appealing to them.
Mm. And it's relentless. That's what you want to say, that you'll start it now. You've got another 50 odd years of this, kids.
Yeah.
And you said I was being depressing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You've just ruined a generation.
Let's talk about who's wearing trousers and who's not. That's a much better topic.
I feel like Christina started this off talking about that, and now she kind of needs to explain herself.
No, I want the pants thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening because I never listen, and I was trying to get this going at the same time. What happened with that? Emily thought you were wearing.
No. Let Mark explain.
It's just Ranganation on BBC Two, which I can't say it very well, but they do a thing at the end because they're all on Zoom now, and basically one of them has been sitting there for the entire show only wearing their pants, and the guests have to guess who has been sitting there just with no trousers on.
But it's
I think that's hilarious. It's obviously you.
No, because you accused me of wearing cargo pants earlier.
Exactly, yeah.
That wasn't accusing. I've got nothing against cargo pants. I just thought you were wearing them, and I just didn't think that was your usual style.
Do you know? I've been telling everyone about this. Talking of pants, I was on a call with someone earlier this week, and they were doing the call in the bedroom, and there were behind them. There were two doors, and through one door appeared their son, only in his boxers, bless him. And he went into the other door for a pee and left the door open. So it's funny already, okay? But the son was about 20 years old.
It's so awkward.
But when you see that, you know, I can see what's going on behind me. I just need to flip my thing across or put my hand over it. Don't leave it going when you've seen your kid walk behind you.
It was the mortification across the face of the person I was on the call to, and they were just like, "I'm so sorry," but it was like I know I keep using the word paralysis at the minute, but they were like, what do I do? And they sort of called over and said, she doesn't want to see you walking around naked. And the son goes,
I'm sorry.
I died. I was just like,
did you hear that?
Yeah.
What happened?
So this is an example of how not to be professional. I had the browser open for our working lunch, which starts at 1 o'clock. And they're in the green room. I've had that happen before. It's given me the shock of my life.
Oh my God. People just suddenly stop talking.
So it's all gone now.
Cool. Well, we always try and keep this under an hour anyway. So we'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much, Louise.
I've loved it.
Always nice to see you.
And and I know there's going to be things in there that people find really, really useful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will see you next week at the event, and we'll make sure we put a link to it in the comments as well. So anyone watching this, if you're involved in the recruitment world, check out that event. And yeah, that's it for another week. And we'll see everyone 12 noon next Thursday for live lunch. See you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.